this is Manushka. Welcome to our Friends and Family YouTube channel. We're so excited that you have tuned in today. We believe here at VOUS that you never have to go at it alone. And so we've created content to help you along the journey. You're getting ready to hear one of our workshops from VOUSCon 2023. We believe that it's going to be a blessing to your life. Check it out.
We're going to have a good time today and hopefully just kind of opening up the floor, talking, having a fun time, talking about worship leading.
Can we first address the fact that we're all wearing green,
I think so.
Green pants?
Green pants.
Oh, I'm sorry. He stole your chair. I stole your line.
Say your line.
Can we all address the fact that we're all wearing green pants, everybody?
Green Pants Day. Green Pants Day.
Does anyone have the gift of interpretation to know what that means?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
I do.
that's something special, but
It's
I think
something
I
deep.
do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I did a quick Google search, and Google has revealed to me that green, it can represent new beginnings and growth. So
All right.
there we go. And renewal and abundance.
All right, let's go.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love, let's give it up for the color green,
Yeah.
everybody. All right, we're going to have to loosen up the room a little bit. Let's give it up for the color green, everybody. I love it. Awesome. Just to break the ice, all of you, just want to say, take a moment to honor each of you. Thank you so much for not only sowing into VOUS and being a part of what we're doing here, but what you're doing at your respective churches, what you're doing all around the world with your music, your songwriting. You're really affecting a lot of people, a lot of worship leaders. A lot of people are really being able to connect with the presence of God because of the time that you took to write something down, to record it, to put it out, to lead. So I just want, can we take a moment just to honor all three of these amazing worship leaders? They hate it, but I love it. It's going to be good. So Aodhan, let's start off with something fun.
Okay.
And everybody can answer as deep as you want to go. Most embarrassing, or one of the most embarrassing moments you've had while leading worship?
I pooped my pants.
We started with you.
Yeah.
Seriously? Is that serious?
I did, yeah.
In the middle of a set?
Yeah, at Motion Conference. I was sick, and I was sick, and then anyways, it just happened. I was wearing green pants like this. It actually might have been
same
these,
ones?
Yeah, it might
Same
have been
pants?
these. And I felt it go down my leg.
Wow. Do you remember what song you were singing? Let It Flow?
No, I was singing. No, that's
Sorry,
good,
I
though.
had that one in my back pocket.
I was singing "Let Go."
There you go.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Did you run off stage or did you finish the set?
No, I stayed. It was the first or second song it happened, and then I just stuck my legs together and just endured.
Oh my gosh. Let's give it up for Let
Yeah,
Go,
so there you go.
everybody.
Thank you.
Should we continue or no?
No,
Is that-
we should not continue.
Do you have one that tops, Cody?
No, I can't top
I reckon
that.
you guys can top it.
I can't top it.
No?
I was. This also has to do with me being sick. So there's a common thread. I wasn't that kind of sick.
Yeah.
I was like congestion sick on tour one time, and I took a bunch of Mucinex, and it made me really like loopy feeling. And so I get up on stage and I'm trying to talk after the first song. I'm trying to like exhort the room and talk about all these, just talk about like, the atmosphere shifts when we lift the name of Jesus, and we were in this city that was like particularly heavy, and so I was just like really just exhorting, but I didn't say shifts. I said something else, which in that context felt really
deep.
And so yeah, that's definitely up there. It's not yours, but I definitely I felt it in that
I would
moment.
say that's worse.
No
Well,
one
I
knew about
physically-
yours.
Yeah, well,
right?
mine was a physical
thing.
It was a word.
Yeah, his was a word. Yeah.
Our stories are connected actually in
Yeah.
a weird way, but
You got
So
anyone?
I have to go now.
You don't have to go, but
I mean, I just growing up in church, you have funny stories and things that happen. Like one time I was playing behind the pastor, the holy music while he's getting ready to do the altar call. And if there's one thing I hate, it is a slow person who's taking their time getting up to the piano because God's moving. You got to get up there, right? So the stage is elevated, but just enough to where I could jump on it. But I run because I hate slow people. And I run with all my might, and they're talking, and everybody's head is low, and the spirit is moving. And I go to jump onto the stage, and my foot gets caught. I didn't jump high enough. And I fell onto the stage. it was one of those falls where everybody goes, oh, you know, and I had to stand up and be like, I'm okay, I'm fine. Back to what you were saying. And by the time I got home, the story had made its way to the whole staff. The senior pastor called me personally and was like, hey, are you okay? I heard about what happened. But yeah, that's my
Oh
story.
my goodness. Can I share one?
Yes.
Mine is similar to yours. I think I was like 19 leading worship at a summer camp with an electric guitar, like Lincoln Brewster. And I don't know why I thought it was cool, but I had this like little Marshall 30 amp plugged in that we didn't use sound systems back then, I guess. And I thought like we were doing such a good job. It was like the final song of the night. Everybody's jumping around and dancing. And I had seen it on TV, and I was like, I'm just going to jump up onto my amp and like, that final chord, you know what I mean? Just kind of jump up onto my amp and be like, yeah, thank you, camp, And I jump up on the amp, and it's a Marshall 30. It's not like a half stack. It's this tall. And as soon as I jump on it, it buckles, and I fall back with my electric guitar, and I do a full backflip, like on the ground, and I'm still playing, and I'm like, good night, camp,
Hey, that's pride.
That's
Okay?
pride. That's
Just
pride.
so you know.
Yeah. We're all committing all the sins, All right. Anyway, I'll go first next time. All right, we'll lead up to Aodhan. We'll do that again.
Yeah, Aodhan
Cool.
definitely should go last.
But we love you. We love talking about all the fun things. And I think one of the things about being a worship leader is that over the years, your approach to it might change. The way you define the word worship might change in one season to a next. It might actually look different in one season. Sometimes you might really be connecting with God in musical worship one season, but some seasons your worship to God might be stillness. But yet there's the tension that you're still leading other people into corporate worship. So I just wanted to ask, and anybody can answer, we can all answer, but what is worship to you? Where are you finding your worship in this current season of life? How are you connecting God? Or just generally, what are you defining as worship? Where are you finding that time to connect with God and worship? It's a thinker, I'm sorry. I went from icebreaker to the
No, I love it.
define worship for everybody.
Yeah, I think it's cool that you pointed out that it changes in different seasons, and I think that's true. I think for me at the moment, I'm hyper aware of the fact that obviously worship is our lifestyle. It's the things that we do. It's not just leading worship and singing on a stage. And we always say that in church, like leading worship, lead from your seat, and all that stuff is true. I think for me, I'm not leading as much as I was. When I was living in Australia a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was leading 5-6 times a week, and sometimes 5 times a day at Hillsong. And now I'm living in the States, it's definitely not like that. So it has changed. But I think for me, it's always been like I have to have those moments in stillness with God before I'm on a platform. And that hasn't changed, I think, over the years. But more so now, I think that's been where I worship, like in my room, playing the piano and doing things like that actually are the place where I meet Jesus. And in this stage of life, I think I really have a reverence towards the idea that when I step onto a platform and that there's a job to be done, and it's to get the room from maybe a place of hesitancy or lack of faith to a place that's full of faith, and a place that people feel like they can really meet Jesus and have an encounter with God. And so I don't know if that really answered the question, but for me, I've been thinking a lot about that. Yeah,
That's great.
I think, worship, we're all going to worship something because we're all going to put something first, Yeah. And it really is that. It's like, okay, if I'm worshiping God, I'm going to put God first. And what does that actually mean? And like you said, it goes so much deeper than singing a song. That is like a facet of worship, but it's so much deeper than that. It's a life yielded. It's a life it's a heart with full attention and focus on God. Like I'm worshiping, I'm putting all of my attention, all of my focus, all of my priority on God, and so that like leaks into every part of my life, right? Like a God honoring way to approach every situation, And I think as a worship leader, you can't take people where you haven't been. And so I think, you become such a better worship leader when you are a worshiper first, when you know how to, that well-worn path into the presence of God, and I think leading people is really just taking people on a journey with you, and I wouldn't want to go to Yosemite and hire a guide that had never hiked that trail. Like I want the guide that's hiked that trail 500 times, and that is not only just going to lead me, but it's going to be a full experience because he knows every single facet of it. And it's very similar that like we have this responsibility and this challenge really as worship leaders to develop that well-worn path, to know how to get into the presence of God. And what's amazing is when you know a path so well, all you have to do is walk it, people follow you, and there's not a lot of like, you don't have to like strong arm a lot of that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, hey, we're gonna go to the presence of God. Like, here we go. And it's just like, follow me. Like, this is where we go. So I'm just challenging myself constantly just to what is that well-worn path? Like, hike the trail today, in my own life so that I can lead people there.
I mean, I don't have a lot to add to that because they've said so much. But I think, what they were saying and what we would all say in essence is that worship is a lifetime posture of surrender, period. Like, that's where you stay for life. And as long as your posture is surrender to God for life, then everything you do from that place will show surrender. Like, I'm surrendered to God on stage. I'm surrendered to God in life. I'm surrendered to God with my finances. I'm surrendered to God in how I treat people. And I think that's where, some of the frustration comes where, it seems like people are different on stage than they are off the stage. Well, that's because they're not living in a lifetime posture of surrender. And I think that that's a place that you are continuously course correcting to come back to. Because God sends new beautiful relationships into your life, a baby. God sends a new job. God sends things, and we're constantly course correcting, saying, okay, I cannot worship the things that you've given me. I have to stay in this posture of surrender toward you. And then I'll just say that the way that I've been approaching worship in a congregational setting has changed because I have this wrestle. Can I just be real with you guys?
Of course.
I wrestle every time I'm about to go on stage. And the wrestle that I hopefully win every time is I don't have to do anything but be willing for God to show up, be a willing vessel, and also live in that posture of surrender, but be a willing vessel. Because there's so much pressure on worship leaders. And I don't think that people mean to put it on them, but we get off stage and people say things like, every time you sing, I feel this, right? And it's only when you such and such, I just feel the presence of God. And they don't realize that that's like kind of an idolatrous statement to make, right? Because we have to get off the stage and then process that and put it back on God. Mm-hmm. And so I have just made this like, I'm in this place where I'm like, yep, I'm gonna fight this devil every time before I go on stage because I don't have to do anything. If I don't sing loud enough, as long as my posture is right and I show up, he's gonna come. Yep. And so it's like this whole like he said, I'm not fighting with you guys. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't care if I leave the stage feeling like I left everything on the stage and nobody responded and lifted their hands anymore because it's about this. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna have moments like that, right? Because the hype moments can get to your head and you start thinking, when they're responding, God's moving. Yeah. What about when you go minister in a church that's not charismatic like yours and people that's not how they respond to God, So I'm saying too much, but
you're not.
Like, it's this whole wrestle. Every time I go on stage, I have chosen to fight and try to win that battle and get my mind right. Like, I don't care. Like, we're worshiping together. So I say things to them like, we're gonna put on a concert of worship for the Lord. You didn't come to hear me sing. We came to put on a concert together for the guests of honor. And that just helps me keep my mind right. I make them sing a lot. I have people say to me like, that's the most I've ever sang ever at a worship service. And they're not mad. Sometimes they're frustrated, but I'm like, joke's on you, dude. But yeah.
That's an amazing it. Come on, couldn't clap it up for that. That was awesome. I definitely feel that tension where you're really just trying to bring people to a place for an audience of one. It's like the stage doesn't exist. It's not the congregation and the congregation leader. It's like we're all at the feet of Jesus. One of the things that I say is right before I step on is whether 5 or 5,000, I'm going to praise you. The same way, whether 5 or 5,000. And the 5 is the people who are on stage with me, you know. Or 5, it doesn't matter. It's not about the number of people in the room. It's about the one that's in the room. And I think all of you are echoing that. And I think the authenticity, like you mentioned, in your private life carries over into your public life. So I think maybe we can go back to you and go this way. Thinking back to maybe when you started leading worship. I don't know how, I know you grew up in church. I don't know if everybody here grew up in church, but think about the moments you started and you get up there to sing and the way that you approach it, the way that you approached it from that place and the things that you've learned along the way. What is something that you would like to tell that younger version of you, that less seasoned worship leader version of you, that would maybe help them in the things that they're going to struggle? Like you talked about the pride that you have to face, the things that you have to, the devils you have to face, the compliments that you get that you actually have to turn back to the Father. It doesn't have to be super profound, but what's something that you would just want the little piece of advice, even if it's just keep going, put your head, you know, make it about whatever it is. I would love to hear that because I think there's a lot of people in this room, no matter how seasoned they are at leading worship, you know, it's going to help them on their journey to get to the place maybe where they feel like you are, even though we're all equals in the room in the sight of God. But what's some piece of advice you might want to say to your younger self?
Yeah, mine will probably be really practical, but probably, what's that mean? I think I approached it with a lot of fear when I was younger. And I was just telling the story about the first time I led worship and how I was so scared. I didn't know how to play piano and sing at the same time. My parents went out of town and left me there. I'm not bitter anymore. But but the Lord showed up, right? And when I was talking about that, I realized the other practical side of that is that I wasn't the only one on stage carrying the moment, you know? Like, the band showed up. Like, I think if you're leading with a band, something practical to remember is, like, you're not the only one on stage. Like, you can lean on. And that's why you look at they challenge you to look at the people next to you, look them in the eye and sing the chorus to the person next to you. Because you're there with people. You're not the only one carrying the moment. And you can bring the crowd into that as well.
I'm actually in a place where I'm trying to learn from my 15-year-old self.
Wow.
Because obviously I didn't know I still don't really know what I'm doing, and I don't really ever want to become an expert or professional at this. That's very dangerous. But I think, you know, what was really great about that season, I think, was that there was just this like pure passion, abandonment. There wasn't really a whole lot of mud to trudge through that there is now, and there's more people, and there's all in social media. It wasn't, you know, we didn't have that back when I was 15, and all those kinds of things, right? So like, it was just showing up on a Wednesday night, leading my youth group of 40 people in my little small hometown in Texas, and like going after the presence of God, you know. And I've actually been thinking about that version of me as a worship leader a lot lately. Of like, I don't want to lose the childlike worship that's all I knew back then. I didn't know how to do this. I didn't know how to step up and deliver a great set. You know, it's like I can do that now. I try my hardest not to do that. I try my hardest to stay childlike, to stay heart engaged, to stay like just it's all about Jesus. It's all about Jesus. It's really all that matters. It's all that matters. It's not about me, and it's not about a song, and it's not about it's not about notoriety, and it's not about how many likes I get on social media, and it's not about any of that stuff. It is all about Jesus. And I even I remember when I maybe I'm trying to decide if I should share the story or not. I remember when I stepped on stage at Passion Conference the first time in the stadium and there's 60,000 people, or this is before I stepped on stage. I was processing it, right? I'm processing like, God, I don't think I know. I definitely do not know how to do this. And I don't usually get nervous, but like, I'm nervous that I'm just not going to be myself, or I'm not going to. And I remember him giving me this picture of like in that moment of going, hey, just when you feel that way, just close your eyes and pretend that you're in a living room with like 12 people. And just do that. Yeah. And I think I had my eyes closed that whole set probably, because it was just like, this is beautiful, and you know, I'm here in this moment, and I'm fully present in the moment. But at the same time, it's like I never want to lose that. Yeah. 12, like you said, like 5,000. It does not matter. It's like, how am I going after Jesus in that room with 40 kids and in my youth group at 15? It's like I don't want to lose that. You know, we were just talking about Martin Smith, Delirious. I don't know how familiar you all are with Martin Smith. You need to be familiar if you're not. Father of worship, father of like, and we did a tour with him just a couple months ago, and I was just telling Aodhan, I said, what was so incredible about spending that time with him was that he is still a child in worship. Yeah. He has this abandonment. He does not care what people think. Yeah. And there is so much authority in that. It's like, actually, we don't need to try to get better at doing it. We don't need to get more professional at this. We actually lose something if we try to get more professional at this. And yes, is there beauty in like getting really good at what you do and there being, yes, of course, like you should craft, you should go after that. But you should go after that as an offering to the Lord. Like, I want to play as best I can, for the Lord, not so people will like me. And but I never just want to get too professional. I want to stay like a child,
I love that. That was amazing.
That was really good. I was going to say something quite similar. I think there's a lot to learn from those early days. I feel like when I was younger, I wasn't aware of the rules. I didn't know the symbols that you do, like chorus and bridge, and I didn't know like how to put a set together. I think as you get older, you develop these like ways of doing things. You're gonna keep these 3 songs in the same key. We're gonna build here. We're gonna do that. And when I was younger, I was oblivious to all of that. And I think it really made me grow such a dependence towards like the Holy Spirit in moments of worship, because you're like, whoa, I don't know what to do. So like, God, like just help. And so I think I feel like I never want to lose that. And there has been moments over the years where I could get up and lead worship and not think about just think about, if I do this at this point, it's going to work. And I miss that. And I think every day I'm trying to like learn how to get back to that place. I think as well, like the other thing I would say to myself, I used to get very nervous, and I still get so nervous before singing. I get nervous before talking. I hate this. But I think leading worship, I just like get sick. And I think I would say to my younger self, if that's what we were doing, if we're talking to ourselves, I think I would say that it's very chill. It's fine. You've got a million opportunities to keep doing this. You like one Sunday is one of a billion times that you're going to lead worship, or whatever day it is, or whatever it is. I think, and I don't know. It's all just an offering. It doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Yeah. All that matters is that we have a heart that's surrendered to God, and so I think that would take a lot of pressure off me in my younger years. I used to feel like every time I led worship, it was like the end of the world, and I couldn't sleep for 5 weeks before. I'd be like texting everybody like, what set should I do? Like, I just feel like I'm glad that is a thing of the past a little bit. But yeah.
I definitely feel that tension sometimes where you step on the stage, and you had talked about taking the room from one place to another and trying to get people to press in. We at VOUS, we have some amazing times of worship, but I think the times that you find struggling the most are when you didn't feel like you got the response, like you were having your moment with God, and then you opened your eyes and there was just like a blank stare, and learning to recover from that quickly. But we keep talking about putting together sets and trusting your team and the people that you're doing life with on Sunday and during the week. Maybe something practical for the room, people in their own churches kind of putting together set lists for the week, figuring out what musicians to pair together. What's some practical things that you do before you're approaching a Sunday or a tour or a worship session that you feel like you've learned a lot from, that every worship leader should really be doing each week, whether it's a practical thing about, got to have a 1 song that goes into a 2 song, that goes into a 3 song, or if it's more about a personal devotion kind of a thing. What's some maybe non-negotiables that you would want to think through or process with yourself, by yourself or with your team, before you step up on a platform on a Sunday and lead the congregation in worship?
I think for me, I always start with just really this posture of asking the Lord to lead my heart towards like a song. Usually starts with like a song, as far as like where are we supposed to go? Because you're trying to prophetically pick up on a moment that's coming in the future, right? So it's this really tricky thing, and you don't always get it right, and that's okay. There's grace in it, but I think just that posture of like if I'm preparing a set list, like it's what we did for VOUS conference. It's like what we do for everything. It's like my heart is like, Lord, lead our hearts to whatever is going to be needed in that moment, And oftentimes it's that with that prayer comes your heart going, oh, I think there's something about this song or this that just feels, I'm really excited about that. And so it is crazy oftentimes when you get to that moment and you realize like how much God kind of lined something up that you could never have done, whether it's, a lot of times it's like somebody who's speaking who, it's like the perfect, like, you're like, there's no way, this is so cool, those kind of moments. And no one else probably realizes it, but you do, because you realize, I really just want to hear the Lord, And I think that's the first thing. And then I think right now, like I'm so challenging myself as a worship leader to make sure that there are vertical moments in the worship set, that there are moments that are straight to Jesus, And I think just making sure that that's always kind of like a pillar in it. And so just having those moments that are just vertical, and making sure that I'm not forgetting to sing about Jesus. It's all about Jesus, but there is this like element of, I want to make sure that I'm singing just about Jesus. Like I'm just adoring the Lord. I'm just talking about his the facets of who he is and his characteristics, and that honor and that praise, that kind of vertical thing. And so that's for me right now, is like, okay, if I feel this drawing towards something, and it's like, all right, but where are the pillars of like the vertical straight up kind of moments,
I love that. That's great. No, you're good.
Okay, great.
I can move on. Is this helping anybody in the room? Can we encourage them? Awesome. I love that. Specifically to the three of you, I'm going to like puff you up a little bit, but I think each of you, as far as what you bring as a songwriter to the worship community, has just been phenomenal. And I think each of you, not only the words and the way that you write them and the melodies, but even just like the music that you guys have put together, I feel like each of you are kind of taking worship music to a place that's never, like a funny story would be the first time I heard We Are Young and Free, I didn't like it. I was like, I instantly felt older than I've ever felt in my life. Does that make sense? Sorry, it's supposed to be funny. I'm like,
amazing. No one
Since
liked
we're
it.
here,
no,
man,
no,
I
no,
wanted
no,
to
no,
tell
it's
you.
true though.
no. The first time.
Yeah.
The second and third time. So it's supposed to be a joke, guys.
Well, we weren't allowed to play it in church.
No?
No. For the first couple of months.
But what I'm saying is, like, eventually that sound became the new sound.
Mm.
It was like, this is out there. I was the old guy going, we can't play rock and roll in church. I don't know why, but I had an electric guitar. But as I started listening, I was like, wow, this is really unlocking something different from me than it did before. I could say the same thing about your gospel album last year. It's not part worship, part like it's a new sound of gospel that I hadn't heard before. Does that make sense? And then we can't say enough about you, man. Like the things that you're doing with your songs, the places of I want to say intimacy with the Father. Does that make sense? Like I can tell the words that you're singing are coming from a time in your house after the kids were put to bed that you were crying out and you were asking God for a fresh word because you were going through something. So if it's not too deep, if it's not too shallow, how are you bringing that inspiration? What is inspiring you now? What do you feel like the type of music, the type of sound, the type of words? You've already mentioned vertical worship to God, words that honor him and adore him. But I feel like even if you don't know it, you are leaders in these categories, at least to me and probably to a bunch of people in the room. Where are you pulling that from? Where's that inspiration coming from? I know you're probably not doing it on purpose. I'm kidding. You are.
Give me the nod like
I should
you
have given
first.
you the talking points. This one's off the
No,
cuff.
I love it. It's great.
No, this is great. It's very natural. I think for me, I don't plan, what I want to write about so much, and I know that people do, and that's a really good thing to do. But I really try to. I think with my new album that's coming out, it is conceptual. And it was a word that or a movement that just dropped on me on a plane one time. And it just never stopped. It just kept evolving, and there was more. And that's how I knew. I was like, oh, this is the Lord. I need to lean into this moment. So I think more so for me, it's like leaning into phrases that not only spark my creativity, but I feel in my heart, somebody needs to hear this. And deciding to go, to stop doing what I'm doing and go record a song. I think that happens a lot. I don't know if that happens for you guys, but you might be in the middle of something that others might deem important, but when a song comes, you lean into the moment. So that's kind of, for me, it's been that, leaning into moments.
Yep.
I agree with you. I think for me, it's a lot of the time you don't plan it. It happens, and it's kind of just a response to maybe what's going on in life. I think with the We Are Young and Free thing, that was intentional. And I think we came at a time with the youth, like Hillsong United was the youth band at Hillsong Church, and they had left, and we had this youth ministry with none of its own music, and that had kind of always been a part of what Hillsong had always had, an expression of worship from every kind of part of the church. And the guys that were around who were, playing guitar, keys, drums, like the type of music they were listening to was pop music. That was the instruments they knew how to play. We didn't really have any guitar players, but we had like 6 synth players. And we didn't have people who could play like proper bass. They could only play like synth bass. And so it wasn't so much like, hey, let's like grind to try and sound like the radio. It was just like, that's just actually what these guys do. And so we just made music that was real and honest to us. And I think there was intentionality to it in that we were like, well, we do want to reach people that don't go to church, and the music that they listen to sounds like this. And so there was something like that. But I think as I've kind of gotten, I'm not older at all, but like, that's 12 years ago. I think like I've gotten to a place where I feel like I just want to do what feels right in the moment. And so if tomorrow I feel like rapping on a song, well, who knows? Maybe I'll rap on a song. If it turns into a jazz song, well, then maybe. But I think like, I don't know. I've never been one to plan, because I'm not organized like that. So it's always just been what feels right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think art is very good when you try to plan it before you do it. You just gotta get in a room with a canvas and throw paint and you can have a vision, but if you try to micromanage it from the beginning, it's never gonna be anything where it's like. And, I think about, like, when we wrote the song Good, Can't Be Anything Else. It's like that day was us. We were at my house, and we were just the two of us, and we were just, like, playing around. Like, I remember that day being so full of joy and, like, almost like exploration. It was like there was no rules. It was just, we're having a good time. We're talking about Jesus. We're drinking coffee. And, like, we're throwing chords down on the piano, and we don't know what we're doing, And then all of a sudden, something happens. And what I love about co-writing is that you can tell when like you strike gold in a room because everyone gets excited. It's like everybody's, and sometimes there's these tension moments where it's like one person's excited, one person's not. You kind of have to and usually that brings about a better thing, right? So those moments happen too. But I do love those moments when it's like something happens, and there was a lot of moments that day writing that song, and it was like so much fun because it's like, oh, I don't know what that is, and we're not trying to plan that, but that both of our hearts like just leapt at the fact that we feel like we found something, so let's just do that, And then I think speaking to like what you said about experiences, I mean, songs just kind of naturally will come out of experiences. They come out of like, when you're a songwriter, that's like the language that you speak, right? That's like a natural thing. And so when God speaks something to you and you're a songwriter, well, kind of naturally you're going to start hearing melodies a lot of times. You're going to start hearing these things. And what I love about that is I heard Bill Johnson say like 10 years ago now to a group of songwriters, he said, you should always write songs out of encounters with God, because when you do, those encounters get locked up in those songs. And when people experience that song, however they experience it, sing it in their church, listen to it in their car, wherever it is, they get invited into a similar encounter with Jesus that you had in that moment. And so it's like these treasure boxes of these encounters, you know? Yeah. And and I could tell a story about like the encounter for me in that moment was I had lost my dad 6 weeks before we wrote that song, and I had never that's the darkest moment of my life. So like that's the hardest moment I've ever had, and but at the same time I have never felt the richness of the goodness of God as much as I did in that moment, and it was such a crazy experience for me because I thought, this is the hardest thing I've ever had to walk through, yet I feel your presence so rich. I wouldn't trade this for anything. Wow. And I think that song, I didn't plan it, but I think what came out of my heart that day, just for me, was like I just wanted to tell God how good he was. Because I had just experienced like a facet of it, And so it's just kind of when you're walking through things, you have to ingest the word of God as a songwriter, because like you want the word of God to just naturally come out in these sessions. And a lot of times we have Bibles open and we're making sure like, I know there's a scripture about this. Let's go read it. Let's write it from that, But you want those experiences and that word of God to just kind of naturally come out in those moments. And then you can just write those heart prayers and you can write those things that God is saying, and you can write from those encounters,
That's so good.
I love that. I'm eating all this up. It's amazing. You blew me away with that, so I'm just kind of processing. You've got an album coming out. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, it's not coming out yet, but it will be in the future.
Maybe.
It's on the way.
Sorry. Let me rephrase that. Doe just put out a song 2 weeks ago. How about that?
Yeah, you can say
there
it. You can say all of those things.
Okay.
I just don't. We don't have a date yet, And I know you're not supposed to say that when you're signed. You're supposed to act like it's coming. It's coming, y'all.
It's fine.
We don't have a date yet, but we have.
Neither does the VOUS worship album
be
that
real,
we just recorded.
right?
So
I
we're
think
good.
everybody
Pull the
knows.
curtain
It's
back
coming
for us, will you?
Yeah, everybody understands how it goes nowadays. But yeah, pretty much all the songs are written, and I'm so excited about it. What was the question? Because I can go, you know what I'm saying?
I was trying to connect it to what we were just talking about basically just kind of taking the moments of intimate moments with God, your approach to the songwriting and bringing it into the inspiration for music, and each of you have a particular sound that is unique to you, and it's actually impacting a lot of people. So I'm just asking, where's that coming from for you? You know what I mean? Where's that coming from you in your songwriting? I just listened to your song when it came out, and it comes on my release radar because I'm your fan.
Thank
and
you.
It's a real
I need
fan
the
right
streams.
Aiden's the only one laughing at my jokes today. It's fine.
I'm laughing.
It's okay. But I was just saying, where's that? I wanted you to talk about it because I really love what you're doing.
Yeah.
And
Thanks.
I think there's some aspiring worship leaders and songwriters in the room that might need some help finding that place. They might feel like they have all the pressure in the world, but want to release some of that pressure.
Yeah, I mean, songwriting is so much fun. I'm not changing the subject when I say
Please
this.
do.
No.
I'm out of questions.
I started, really? No, I'm kidding. I started painting, and I suck at it. But it was just for the mere, it was just to express. Because I feel like God, when he created the heavens and the earth, like you see this whole process that he went through in Genesis, and he's God, right? So he could have just snapped his fingers and it just would have been here. But he decided to treat it like this canvas, this blank canvas, and go from one thing to the next. And so I've been working to get in tune with my God side. And when I say that's, and all of us have creativity in us, and that comes from your father's side of the family. You know what I'm saying? that comes from God. And so the more I know, the more that I can just get in moments and create and feel free and kick the critic out of the room, I know that's going to make me a better writer too. And I think sometimes when you go into these writing sessions, you do feel this pressure. But I mean, it's like when you take a test, like, you know, they say if you're nervous, it's going to cause your brain to swell and you da-da-da-da-da. Like, you have to work so hard to kick the negative emotions out of the room so you can really be in a posture of receiving lyrics from God, melodies from God. I mean, when we wrote the new single, I thought that we were reaching for words, and that we got really great lyrics, but really God was just dropping revelation on our posture in that moment. And it was all in his timing, you know, because on the other side of it coming out, I mean, and I'm not plugging, I don't want to plug, that's why I'm not going into the song. Anyway, the song is just about, like, Holy Spirit, lead us again. It's this cry, it's this prayer. We want to be led by you again. But when it came out, I felt this, like, oh my gosh, like, I need this song. So I don't even know if I'm, like, allowed to be the one to release it, because it's convicting me too. But that's what brought the revelation of, like, oh, like, we really did in these songwriting sessions, like, we really postured ourselves and said, okay, God, what do you want to say within the concept that you've given me? And I realized that we weren't reaching for lyrics. God was dropping them on us. And it was all, like, in the right moment. And it's so funny. You get in there and it's like a therapy session. You start talking about how you feel about the church, how you feel about life, and what was happening during that time was the Asbury revival. But the revelation from that was, well, we can't go back home and try to force that in our own churches. You don't get to force revival. You get to posture yourself for it. And God, he just, that's like he did there, you know? Yeah, and so good. It was this whole, like, I'm tired of forcing moments, conjuring up emotions and putting your name on it. You know what I mean? It was this whole thing. Yeah, but I'm saying, like, we just got in there and we was talking about how we felt about the Asbury revival, and God just moved in that space. So the more vulnerable you can be, and I guess this is practical too, because when you go into these writing sessions, just be vulnerable, open up. It's scary because you're like, I don't know, they could take my business and put it on, you know, Instagram tomorrow, you know. But I think that there's just this understanding when you're in a writing session where it's like, we're gonna bare our souls and get the best meat we can get in this moment, the meat of the gospel, and say it in a way that nobody's ever heard it said before. And I don't know. Yeah.
I love that. That's beautiful. I think you're searching for that place of authenticity. I think that's what we've kind of been centering around this whole time. Maybe one last question about worship leading. You mentioned Martin Smith, very influential. I got to MD for him once, and it was a crazy experience. But maybe something you've learned from a worship influence on you. So you're very influential worship-wise to a lot of people in the room, myself included. What's something that maybe a mentor of yours has shared with you that you think about all the time? You already mentioned the Martin Smith, that he's been very influential of this last tour, but what's something maybe somebody shared with you along the way that you really took to heart, and because you saw it reflected maybe in their lives or the way that they lead worship, and then you took it and maybe made it your own, and that you would like to pass on?
I've learned a lot from just watching worship leaders. I think being a part of Hillsong Church, there's such a culture of worship and incredible worship leaders, and I've got to grow up around a bunch of them. I think for me, the one thing I've learned and been inspired by and encouraged by, challenged by, all those words, would be like just consistency. I look at some of them who have, like Reuben Morgan, who's been leading worship for like 30 years, and he's written some of the greatest songs ever, but just keeps turning up. And, you know, there might be periods of his life where he's the coolest thing ever, and then there's periods where he's not. Then he goes through periods where he doesn't sing anymore. But like, there's just this consistent attitude and posture. We keep using that word, but it's like you just see it over years. And I think, I don't know, that for me has been the most encouraging thing for me, is watching some of those guys who've just done it for so long continue to, I don't know, make that sacrifice. And I think, you know, it is a sacrifice leading worship sometimes, like getting up early and all those things, but watching people do that has been, for me, really, really awesome. Yeah.
You should go last because you're going to drop the bomb.
I was thinking that I kind of already said mine, so that's why I was like, what you got?
You're going to have something to say, watch. No, I feel like I want to also mention some of the women in worship as well. Like, I got to hear some words from CeCe Winans one time, or just hear her talk to people. And they were asking her, like, how'd you do it? You know, because she's like made it this far, and she has not had one scandal. She's an artist, yet she's a worship leader, and she's just like done it so well and gracefully. And the question was, how did you keep this right, like this whole time? And her answer was so practical and simple. She was like, I just want to be a woman of God, and I want to be a good wife to my husband, a good mother to my children. And that just made it so freaking simple for the rest of us, right? Right? Just like live a good life. Live a good life, and you'll be fine, and you'll be satisfied at the end of it. And that really meant a lot to me. And then I'm going to say something about Stephanie Gretzinger, because she said something so special, and she just posted it, and it's wrecking me right now. She said, worship is not your calling. He is your calling. If you don't get that right, you're going to go home devastated when the crowd doesn't respond, and you're not going to know what to do with it. And I reposted it, but this is me reposting it live right here. You know what I'm saying? Because it just wrecked me.
Yeah, I think she's in on that. Can't say anything better than that. Jesus is your calling. Amen.
I love that. Can we give it up for these incredible worship leaders?
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that workshop. If you'd like to discover more content like this, check out the VOUS Friends and Family Network, created to equip you with free resources and real relationships. And hey, don't miss out on the opportunity to be in the room next year for VOUSCon 2024, a gathering of global leaders designed to strengthen your faith and connect you to community.